Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, July 24th, 2022. I'm Reverend Cherie Ruffo, and we're here at the Unity Radiant Light 10:30 a.m. service. And today, we're going to be continuing our series on the 12 layers of the DNA with layer 7, Divinity Revealed, with Archangel Raphael. It's nice to be back with you this week, and we've been on quite a journey with the 12 layers of the DNA. We're at layer 7 already. We're over halfway through. And if you remember back, think back if you've been following along in the series, that the first 3 weeks we looked at the grounding layers of the DNA and grounded to Mother Earth, to Gaia. The second 3 weeks we looked at were the layers. These are the divine layers, the divine blueprint of us on as we have our journey on this earth. And we've looked at also the archangels that go along with each of this and the chakras. We've been aligning chakras, activating DNA. And today we're entering this new grouping of three layers of the DNA called the Lemurian layers. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Lemuria, oh, here we go. Here's our revealed divinity, wisdom, responsibility, flame of expansion. If you're not familiar with Lemuria, Lemuria was believed to exist about the time, I think most people have probably heard of Atlantis. It was here before Atlantis, through part of Atlantis, in a continent that was in the Western Pacific. And today, what remains of it, that continent is believed to have sat on a bubble, a magna bubble, and sank. And what's left of it today is really the Hawaiian Islands and a few other places. This incredible place called Lemuria, the stories about it, or talk about really when a time when we understood that we really had this divinity within us, that we understood that we had this God presence within inside of us. And it was a very, it wasn't a technologically advanced society from what the indigenous say about it, but it was a very spiritual one. People they know what their inner powers were. They understood that, and they were able to really work with healings and things that we're just beginning to scratch the surface on today. So I'm excited to look at these layers. Here's a general map of the world that they believe it was at that time. And you can see Lemuria was in between, and Mount Shasta was believed to have been almost part of that range. You'll see it towards the North America. You'll see how, Lemuria, how large it was believed to have been. You can see over on the left-hand side where Atlantis was believed to have been. Of course, there's many stories and traditions about where Atlantis was too. So we don't have there's not much scientific proof, but as we go on, we are finding more and more things that lead us to believe that there was something that was here before all of this. And of course, that's the stuff I love to study, because I like, with my book series that I've been writing, like to work with the indigenous. And the one thing I found as I've been traveling in different places, the book series is based on the 12 powers, and I've assigned each of the powers to one of the indigenous populations. And the most fascinating thing that I found with this is that in each place when I meet with the indigenous, and whether it's the people from the Hopi Nation of what's left today, from the Hawaiians, and talking to the kahunas, who are the chief priests, or to the Aborigines in Australia, and I'm moving on to Alaska and many different places, they all have this one story that they tell about, is the fact that we come from, something happened 200,000 years ago. Science calls it the missing link, that where it's believed in all of these cultures that the seven sisters, which is the Pleiades, people came here from there, and they mixed their DNA with ours. And that's where we come, that's where the God, the divinity within comes from. It's fascinating. And what I think fascinates me the most about it is these indigenous cultures, the one in the Aborigines in Australia, didn't have outside contact for 40,000 years with other groups. And yet they all tell the same story. They tell the same story about the of us becoming the type of person, human, that we are today. So for whatever you believe, it's fascinating, and everything that we believe in almost every religion on this planet, we believe that there is divinity within us. Now, some religions are a little different, and they might say, well, you need to link it through a religion or through another person to have it. But when you drill it down into the beliefs that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore are the founders of Unity, the indigenous cultures, and so many more, Buddhists, Hinduism, all of it across the world, the divinity is within us. And what I find is so ironic is I've been studying this for so many years, is that in each of these cultures, it talks about humankind and how within us, we also have this desire to find our divinity. And we look all over the world for it. And because of that desire that comes from within us, when the truth is, it's always been there within us too. We just haven't, many of us just haven't seen it. So that's what we're really looking at, these next 3 layers. And as we expand upon, and today we're really going to talk a little bit more in depth about the divinity within revealed. Let me just back one second. Okay. So when we look at this and we think about this divinity that's been revealed to us, that's inside of us, we know that, we can feel it. I mean, as we progress spiritually, we can feel this expanding inside of us. And I know that as I have become more of a meditator, more belief systems as I've grown, I went through seminary, became a Unity minister. And each time I feel a step forward with this, and I can feel it more inside of me, and I know it to be the truth. You know how you just know that you know that you know. Well, this is what they call from this time, the Lemurian times, the seed of spiritual knowledge. So when it's believed that this seed of spiritual knowledge was put inside of us, think about the word, it's seed, right? Which means a seed doesn't just sit there. It grows, it evolves. And that's what's happened to us. So at the time we received it, and as we've gone through all these, through evolution, things have been unfolding, but it's happened at a slow pace. It doesn't just all happen at once. Of course, today we know that there's something pretty significant going on in the world because we see a lot of light and darkness. That's also part of the seed. That's part of our evolution of growing. When we, some of the indigenous call this the loss of our innocence, because yes, we see this purity within us, this white light, but also because it's so, what's also being revealed is some of the darkness on the planet too. And sometimes you look at this and say, does it all have to happen at once? Because these last couple of years have been, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but pretty revealing. So sometimes it can be kind of hard to keep up with. But what's happening now is that it's not so much an acceleration as that we've progressed so much spiritually that veil's coming up and all of this information is becoming clearer and clearer to us. And at the same time, we just see so many things that are happening that are amazing. You can see it in the science, you can see it on the earth, the planet itself. And even, as people walk through this COVID experience, it's allowed us to take that pause, many of us, to really explore what that means to us. So the bottom line, when we talk about revealed divinity, is we have a choice. You have a choice. This earth is a place where our spiritual being, we come here as a spiritual being with free will. And our choice is, do we accept this as truth, that we have this divinity within, or do we say, no, that's not my belief system? And either way, you're not wrong, because we have free will. So whatever resonates with you is the right place to be. Saying that, though, I know if you're here this morning, if you're listening to this later, chances are you already believe that this divinity within, that we have this creator inside of us. And as we play this out in evolution and we grow, continually to grow, we're changing the planet. We are, and it's kind of we look back to evolution, a lot of things have happened. We've evolved. There was a time we believed that the earth was flat. And we know today that that's not true, that we can see it. We have telescopes that show us and satellites, so we can see what the earth looks like. But at the time, that's what the belief system was. And the evolution came to when we knew the truth to be that. Well, that's what's happening with us now. We're evolving. Our spirituality is evolving and at quite a quick pace, because the truth is, as we understand that we have this divinity within, is that we're infinite beings without a beginning or an end. And we have no limitations unless we put them on ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that if somebody is diagnosed with something or has something happen, they lose a job, that it's their fault because they put a limitation on themselves. We're also here having our spiritual journey. And as part of that spiritual journey, there may be things that we encounter and journey through, and which is perfect, is perfect in divine order, that we need to become who we want to be. And I remember when I first started on this spiritual path and trying to understand that, and being a survivor of child abuse, I'm like, I never would have chosen that. That's not who I am. And I was kind of angry when I heard that. But as time went on, I started to understand that the things that I experienced in this lifetime led me to be where I am today. If I hadn't experienced those things, I may not be a unity minister. I may not have gone into social work or done those things or traveled down this path. I may not have met you all, who I love dearly. So I understand now that, yes, my conscious self may say, hey, I wouldn't choose that. But my spiritual self, that the great I am, that is so much bigger than Cherie Ruffo, so much bigger than anything I do here, because that's the infinite part of me, understands that I may make choices that can sometimes be hard to understand, as Cherie Ruffo is the person living this human experience. But it's all in perfect and divine order, and it all comes from this divinity within. And, I think back to the last 10 to 20 years. I mean, we have the shifts that we're having are really great. And as we even talk about the fact that we have this divinity within, we also know that other terms are coming up being associated with it. The quantum fields, the field just by itself, 5D, interdimensional reality. I mean, all of these things that we hadn't talked about before are now becoming part of our language, which is basically the field that we're talking about is this unknown field with unlimited potential, this space between the space, where it's the field of creation. And for us to really operate as this infinite being with no limitations, we need to step into this, activate the parts of us that may not be yet, balance those chakras, and open us up to this field of creation, that space between the space, where all things are possible. This is an incredible journey. And I'm guessing that I'm going to look back maybe in 10 or 20 years to this talk today and say, boy, you didn't know anything, a fraction of what, is coming, because there's so much more to be revealed. And I think for me that the biggest lesson that I've learned is that the more I learn, the less I realize I know. That there's just so much, an infinite amount of information. But what happened? So what happened that helped us to kind of come into this arena and start expanding and understanding this divinity within? And we think back in all cultures, just about everybody talked about 2012. The Mayan calendar ended in 2012. The Hopi Rock talked about the ending was coming in 2012. And what it turned out is that, yes, life ended as we knew it then, but it's reconfiguring itself. And as it reconfigures itself, we have to reconfigure ourselves. And I know a lot of people have had more health challenges as a result of this, but are learning healing technologies and are working through it. The things that really, there seems to be so much darkness on the planet that's rising to the surface. But as we move into this quantum state, the space between the states, it has to come up and be healed, because we can't evolve into spiritual beings, fully into the spiritual beings that we're meant to be. And I say that from a linear perspective. Now, if we step into the quantum field, and I repeat that, and we would say we're awakening to what we've always been, because we're not becoming anything. We've always had these abilities. We've always had this within us. So we think about this, and we think about human divinity, and we have to ask ourselves certain questions. Do you see God as invasive in your life? Is God there to capture your soul or punish you for something? There's a lot of different belief systems out there when it comes to the word God. And I always say creative source. Um, does God want to be our ultimate conqueror and life force of the planet? And or do you have the come from the belief system where you see God walking in the streets every day within each one of us? When I look at each one of you, I see this beautiful, magnificent, we can say child of God, but you are being with this divinity within you. You carry that. And I just invite you to take a deep breath in on that and see how you feel. How does it feel to know that you are this already? You have this divinity that lights you up. One that, it's God central. This is God is within us, with everything that we are. Joe was talking about, the second unity principle. Well, the first one is God is everywhere, present and good. And the second one, as Joe said, that means God is present within us, each one of us. Nobody gets left out. So as we see that there's a lot of fear around this perspective of divinity within, because that makes us responsible for our lives, responsible for a lot more, or do we want to blame somebody else or just give our power over? And I'm here to say that I'm pretty, we've gone through this cycle of time where that's what we did. We gave our power over to other sources. Many of us did. And I think that this new, evolving into this truth, understanding this truth of who we are, the divinity revealed, it's magnificent. Think about it. That power is inside of you. It's not, you don't have to look to somebody else for the answers. Charles Fillmore always said, we have everything we need to know about us, to understand us, to operate within us. It's always been there. Now, as a spiritual family, of course, we're here to celebrate that with each other, to help each other to awaken to it, to remember who you are. So with this layer, we're talking about this layer of the DNA. It's really an extra dimensional sense layer. A lot, we talk about that sixth sense, or it can be seventh or eighth or whatever it is now. But we have these abilities, this intuition to see things, this understanding within, this still small voice that we hear about, especially in the Bible. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about layer number 7. Is that something that's already present within us? So are we, in our choice with this, as we step into this layer 7, is, do we want the drama that we've had in our lives before this time? Do we want to look back and say that's when, as humankind, we let it go? We stepped into this quantum field, this multi-dimensional reality, where we recognize that no matter what we label something, everything comes from love. So if you have a diagnosis with something, we're going to talk about this with Archangel Raphael. Everything comes from the field of love. So how do we work with that? How do we understand that? If all of a sudden you lost a job, or a partner, or these things, how does that work in love? And when we can really go inside, this is where our divinity is revealed, and we can find peace with these things, and we can open up to infinite possibilities. That's when the real healing takes place. So where are you in your life right now? What's happening at this moment? And don't look at that with fear. Just take a breath in and say, okay, this is where I'm at. But I know that the underlying part of this is love, and that we can heal, no matter what that healing looks like. So these are the things that in Lemuria, where this divinity revealed happened, this divinity became part of us. They understood this. They understood that everything comes from love. And they also understood that with that love, that we're born into this world with love, that Mother Gaia, our planet, is love, is part of us. That there's a connection between the planet, Gaia, and us, with each person, that we are all part of this oneness. And in order to fully heal, we have to heal from within to be able to help others to heal. And healing takes place within us. I noticed one thing about Hawaii that always surprised me. I lived there for 4 years in the 90s, and I loved it and found unity there. And I ever since I was a child, my grandparents lived there, and I would fly there. I always said the word home when I approached the islands, and I don't know why. It always just felt like home for me. And I still say that today, but I understand it more now when I hear the story about the seven sisters and hear the story about this place where our divinity was placed within us. And there's a lot of questions about what the indigenous say about this and the science of it. Right now, our system that we live in this world says that we come from the Middle East, and that's where everything started, or Africa. And I think I'm okay with it, believing that the divinity happened in Lemuria. We don't know everything yet. And I believe as the years go on, things more and more will be revealed to us. And I look forward to that. So this is our new beginning. 2012 is our beginning. We understand that we have this divinity within us. What's this story of yours going to be? Is it going to represent the perfection of your life now, this Christ within this perfection of us? Are you going to be able to develop it? I think it's going to be more, we're having our human experience. We're opening to the divinity. We're in this classroom, I call it Earth. And, humans, as having that human experience, we tend to make messes sometimes. And I think most of you'd agree that we have some messes going on the planet right now. I don't think I'd have any argument with that. But what are we going to focus on? That's the question of this. All of this can be happening around us, but what's happening within us? We know this divinity within means it's inside of us. So what can we do with that? How can we develop that? How can we remember? And we're doing it by looking at these layers. And by stepping into this layer today, and we look at I left the Palladian map up there to remind us of where, the story of where the humanity began. This seed of divinity within us. But we can look to the different things on the planet that are already here. We can study. And one of them that we've been looking at is my spiritual teacher in Australia, Simone Matthews. I've been working a lot with this chart with the archangels, and as this understanding that part of this is for us to balance our divinity within us. We have a chakra system in us, and each chakra system, if it's out of balance, needs to be brought into balance, because it can show up in our lives as chaos. It can show up as dis-ease. So and I always find that with these chakras, people, as I'm talking to them and they're working on their healing journeys, where that chakra is out of balance usually says a lot about what we need to do. Most of you know, and I've mentioned it in the last talk, is that I've had issues with my throat chakra, and I've had issues with the breathing in the lungs. And part of that is because I've been trying to balance it, because when you're a survivor of child abuse, you can have your voice, it feels like your voice is taken away. So I'm trying and I'm working to bring that back into complete balance. Today we're looking at Archangel Raphael, which is amazing because we're having a healing service afterwards, and our Archangel Raphael is for healing and sight. And we're going to bring that together with the third eye. It's fascinating when we look at that. So when we look at Archangel Raphael, sometimes I've looked at lots of different pictures of Raphael, mostly pictured. We know that the archangels do not have a sex, but mostly pictured in the masculine, and is known for awakening our imagination. When we work there, because we're talking about sight. If we go back and we look at this Raphael, we also recognize that you don't see any of the elements, because it's all of the elements. So it's also our third eye, and that third eye is right between our eyes. It's known to be our psychic center. And so Archangel Michael Raphael is known to be associated with the pineal gland, which is here. It looks like a pine cone, and it's our psychic center too. So bringing that, so as we evolve as spiritual beings and we're meditating, we're bringing, that pineal gland into balance too. The thing that I find so fascinating when we talk about Raphael and we look at, Raphael being associated with third eye, it really, you start to realize then, what am I seeing? If you've had, and a lot of people that I talk to have had issues, with their eyes, when they're starting on this path, that clear up. But it's not just that, it's the center for imagination. So when you think about yourself, what do you see? Are you seeing this amazing, incredible, multidimensional being, this piece of God? Or are you seeing, maybe questioning whether you're worthy? Are you questioning, maybe you're living in fear? So Archangel Raphael, we associate with the power of imagination and bringing that into balance. If we have a balanced chakra with the third eye chakra, then we'll have that multidimensional sight. It'll be very clear, and that will come through the past, the present, and the future. We'll recognize, because when we move into the multidimensional realm, we start to move away from linear time. So we see how much relevant they are with each other, but instead of seeing time in a line, we see it in a circle. Archangel Raphael helps us to access higher wisdom, the wisdom beyond duality. And when we can reach that with this power of imagination, we open ourselves up to this green ray of healing. The necklace I chose today is for healing. And it's because the healing comes within these green rays. So you just think about that, and maybe just take a moment now to just breathe that in and think, how do I see myself? What is that sight that I'm using? And how do I really view myself? And you can test yourself, because you can say, well, I'm magnificent. But maybe your stomach doesn't feel, feels a little churned up when you say that, because maybe in your subconscious, there might be some beliefs. So this week, we're really working with the beliefs about ourselves. If you have too much of this chakra, you can have poor sleep, insomnia, headaches and migraines, depression, instead even tooth problems, and the fear of seeing the truth. If you have too little, then we might see that lack of imagination. You need to open up that imagination. You're still with the headaches and the migraines, because once again, we're talking about this head area. And we want to be able to open that up fully. And Archangel Raphael today, we're going to be asking and setting the intention when we do the meditation to open ourselves up fully with our imagination, using divine wisdom, to really see ourselves for who we are. And the one thing that Archangel Raphael is mostly known for is, it's called holographic repatterning, which means helping. The Archangel Raphael can help us to change that DNA patterning that we have, to give us that assistance. Where Archangel Raphael can help us to obtain that healing ray. And to do this, which brings us right back to unity, we have to come into the unity consciousness, that field. We can't do it without it. So another important part of this healing is we feel that connection to Mother Gaia. If you're having any kind of health issues and you're feeling that maybe this third eye, needs some rebalancing, one of the best things you can do is walk outside barefoot. Get that connection to Mother Earth. Dig, plant things. Feel that life. Also to be with animals, pets, because that love, it's that very grounding to Gaia that we're already connected to. It just brings that more in our awareness. That can help. And it also can bring you joy. And joy is that huge part of healing that we're looking for. When we look at the word disease and we look at our Archangel Raphael, just remember that not that this is a bad thing, that this is our body's gift to let us know that we're not balanced in this area right now, that we just need to harmonize with this frequency. This is our opportunity to bring us into full harmony. And Archangel Raphael helps us to open up to this divinity within, revealed, because are these archangels completely separate from us? No, they're within us. This is power, this is that we can access. We have guides, we have masters, but this is all, we are all one. So not to look at this as it's a separate part of ourselves. One of the things that's really important as you go through this healing journey is to look for, because it's associated with Mother Gaia, the healing foods, like I said, to ground, go outside, to feel what makes you feel good, to look up some of the spiritual qualities of foods. We've studied medical medium and so many others, and we can see that there's a lot of great qualities. So if you're going through that healing journey, or even if you say, hey, I just want to reveal, I want this divinity within me revealed more, I want to bring this wholeness into my life more, whatever that is, go ahead and open yourselves up to it. And you can do that by sitting there and eating a huge piece of watermelon. It's delicious. Or yesterday, as I'm working with, post-COVID, wanting to feel, more health in my body, creating popsicles that were made out of freshly squeezed oranges and wild blueberry juice, and feeling those healing qualities. So it's about taking that moment and not being in the past or the future, but being in that very present moment. If you're biting into that piece of fruit or whatever it is, enjoy it. Feel those healing qualities. If you're standing in the earth or lying on the earth or whatever, or petting that beautiful pet of yours, or an animal you might see, a bird in the wilderness, take a moment, be in the moment, and recognize it. So enjoy this. Archangel Raphael teaches us so much. This seventh layer of the DNA reveals who we are and what we are. And just breathe that in as we go into the meditation this morning on this journey, and feel it in every cell of your body. And as always, we have the crystals that are associated, or rocks that are associated with each of the archangels and the layers of the DNA. And this is a beautiful one. I'm going to see if I can find them. I don't have one in my collection, but the green and watermelon tourmaline. So as we open ourselves up to this divinity within us more this morning, I'm just going to invite you to join me in this meditation and activation. And with our mics muted, you can say our affirmation, as we say, I honor the divine love that exists within you, within me, and within all creation. We are all one. And as we enter this and we understand this meditation, we have to do it from the place of oneness. So if you're trying to heal something or have healing prayers for somebody else, heal that part that is within you, because you are part of that person. We are all in this field of creation. So as we heal this from within us, we not only help to heal others, but we heal the world. So I just invite you to take a nice deep breath in on that. As you release, just release any anxiety or uncomfortableness you may have felt this morning with this information about this chakra, this archangel, and just this divinity within. You take another deep breath in, you feel the divine within every cell of your body, and you release it. On the next deep breath in, we're going to feel this area of imagination. In us, it's lighting up, pineal gland. As we breathe it out, we just share it with the world. We feel this crown chakra, the rocket chakra next to us, opening up to the galactic center, and this beautiful energy coming down into us. And the balls of our feet are open, and we have that energy coming in from Mother Gaia. And as above, so below, and as we breathe, we share it with our energy, and we share it back with the world and the galactic center. This is a natural process. As we relax, We feel ourselves moving into this beautiful state of love and peace, knowing that everything is in perfect and divine order all the time. And as we continue to breathe now, we feel this area around our inner eye, third eye, it's opening. And I ask you to do this for the next moment, is to open and feel the beauty of your soul. Feel the divinity within you. So you breathe in naturally, release it. Feel that divinity in every cell of your body. Recognizing that it's not just the physical body, but it goes on to our emotional body, mental body, to all the bodies that are associated with us. We're so much bigger than we give ourselves credit for. And as we expand into this consciousness of our revealed divinity, we're in that multidimensional field, that space between the states. Just breathe into that and relax. Not needing to be anywhere, but knowing that you're everywhere. You are in the field of creation. And this is the true you. This is who you are. You may feel the tingling, you may feel tears. Just acknowledge it, your body's response to that. You are divine. Your wisdom. You have eons of experience because you did not begin or end. Sitting in this awareness is us and our super consciousness. We can live from this consciousness. We don't have to go back to try to fit into this 3D world, like a square trying to fit into a circular hole. Be who you are. You are enough. In fact, you're more than enough. We ask Archangel Raphael to be with us, as Archangel Raphael always is. And we can ask for assistance and healing as we go to that area of our body temple and we see it healed. We see this wisdom, this divine, these green rays of light healing what needs to be healed. And let's just spend a few moments in the silence, allowing the healing to happen within us, but also revealing to us what other healings or balancing we need. And continue to relax as we allow these feelings to happen. But our affirmation for the week is I am divine sight, the dodecahedron. I am divine sight. What comes up for you with that? What is it for you to see? We can see that in this oneness, healing occurs, and we allow that healing energy that we have, knowing that where two or more are gathered, there I am. We take that and we send it to the planet, knowing that it goes to places that need peace and healing, or whatever needs are happening and needed. We know they are answered because you are divinity. And for this, we're so grateful as we come back into our body consciousness more. We don't have to leave this knowledge that we have. We can stay with that merge in super consciousness. But knowing that whatever needs to be healed, whether it be in the body temple with every cell working in perfect and divine order, releasing what may feel to be inappropriate in our body temples right now. Understanding that we are prosperity, we have it in every area of our lives. And holding and feeling that inner joy that will heal anything. For those of us that we love that might be upset or having not as peaceful, we just envelop them in that peace, operating from this field of love, which we are. We are so grateful to the guides, the masters, to Archangel Raphael, to all the teachers, to Jesus, our way shower, for bringing these truths to us. And as we rest in this revealed divinity, we understand it's only continue to get greater. As we say thank you, and so it is.